Hello everyone. Today in this particular video we shall discuss about simplex method, and before starting the simplex method problems we shall discuss about the important points to be noted while solving the simplex method problems. So there are various types of constraints. So as we have discussed in the linear programming problems, there are different types of constraints. So constraints, that is nothing but greater than or equal to, lesser than or equal to. So those are called as inequalities. We call it as inequalities, and these inequalities has to be converted into equality to solve the simplex problem. So that is the important point we need to note while solving a simplex problem. So there are various types of constraints, that is inequality. In order to convert inequality into equality, we have three methods in the simplex method problem solving technique. So first method, let us look into the first method. So whenever the inequality sign is less than or equal to, so when the inequality sign is less than or equal to, so we need to add a new variable called as slack variable, denoted by s. So for example, so I have an example over here. So that is 2x1 plus 3x2, that is less than or equal to 60. So I have less than or equal to sign in this particular constraint. So that is why what we need to do is, in order to convert that into equality, so inequality has to be converted into equality. So in order to convert equality, we add a variable, that is virtual variable. We call it as a virtual variable. So that is called as slack variable. So here 2x1 plus 3x2 plus s equal to 60. So this equation becomes 2x1 plus 3x2 less than or equal to 60. So that becomes 2x1 plus 3x2 plus s equal to 60. So why we need to add a slack variable or a virtual variable to this equation in order to convert that into equality? See, if both products x1 and x2, so here in the constraint we show that 60 is the total number of resources. So that should be the total number of resources, that may be our the resources present in the storage, so or the capacity of the plant. So this is a constraint. So total number of resources available, that is 60, and x1 and x2 are the number of type of products, x1 type of product and x2 type of products that can be produced. And if both x1 and x2, so we are not producing any of the products that is both x1 and x2 we manufacture, it is equal to 0. If there is no manufacturing of x1 and x2 type of components, then it becomes 0. If both x1 and x2 equal to 0, then we have this equation. According to this particular equation, we have then 0 less than or equal to 60. So that is impossible, or it is not possible. So that is why there should be a variable or a virtual variable, we call it a slack variable. So that has to be added to the equation. So we add 2x1 plus 3x2 plus s slack variable to this equation, that becomes 60, and that is equal to 60. So we add slack variable in this kind of situation. Now when we have greater than or equal to sign, so what we have to do? So when we have lesser than or equal to sign, so just we add a extra variable, that is called a slack variable. But here when we have a greater than or equal to sign, then there are two parts in the equation. That is, if you consider a, we consider this as two signs, that is greater than and equal to. So in less than or equal to, we consider that as a single sign, lesser than or equal to. But here we consider this as two signs, greater than and equal to. So for greater than a sign, we need to subtract a surplus variable. So when we get this particular kind of sign in the inequality equation, then what we do is, we for greater than sign, in order to balance it, or we need to subtract a surplus variable. So we subtract a surplus variable. Similar way, for equal to sign, we need to add a artificial variable. So let me explain with an example. So here when we have a condition like 2x1 plus 3x2 greater than or equal to 60, so here I have a greater than or equal to sign. So then what we need to do is we have to subtract a surplus variable, plus we have to add a artificial variable in this kind of condition. So as previously told, I have already told you regarding this sign. So we consider this sign, this greater than or equal to sign, as greater than and equal to. So that is why I subtract surplus variable and I add artificial variable. So here 2x1 plus 3x2 greater than or equal to 60, that becomes 2x1 plus 3x2 minus s plus a equal to 60. So this is the condition. So this is the second condition. And when the sign, so this is the third condition, when the sign is equal to, so in the constraint when we have the sign is equal to, then just add a artificial variable. So what we do is we add, if you consider this as example, 2x1 plus 3x2 equal to 60. So 2x1 plus 3x2 plus a artificial variable, that is equal to 60. So while solving the problem, we will clearly understand why we use greater than or equal to sign, and why we add slack variable, and why we subtract surplus variable. So if we understand these simple points, or we need to remember these simple points when to add a slack variable. So when we have a condition like 2x1 plus 3x2 less than or equal to 60, then we add a virtual variable, that is called as slack variable. We call it a slack variable, so that we need to remember. And the second case we need to remember when we have a greater than or equal to sign. When we have a greater than or equal to sign, so consider this example, 2x1 plus 3x2, that is greater than or equal to 60. Then what we have to do is we have to subtract a surplus variable. We have to subtract a surplus variable, plus we have to add a artificial variable. So 2x1 plus 3x2 minus s plus a, that is equal to 60. Similarly, when the sign is equal to, then just add a artificial variable. So that is about the important points that has to be noted while solving this problem, simplex problem.